Uh, Abstract brainwaves, game genie in the beanie. We ain't on the same stage, leveled up.
Other yellow hat guy here, back with another video. And we have some exciting speculation to talk about. No, it's not the new Nintendo Switch. Or is it? Okay, it is, but that's not mainly what we're talking about this go around. Let's start out with the Sony PlayStation 5 system update. Now, if you get a PS5, and if you already have one, for the few of us that do, you'll note a couple things. I've already bellyached about your PS4 camera not being able to be used on the PS5. That means that your VR headset, in addition with the camera, is not compatible with the PS5. Unless you get this camera adapter, which is free from Sony, which they still haven't sent me, by the way. Or you buy it on eBay, Amazon, something like that, or a friend gets it to you. You know, they sell it to you or give you one for free. Shout out to Justin for that. You could also get that Iron Man VR bundle, which does include the headset adapter, but the older versions don't include it. And Sony didn't even communicate anything to me about a follow-up, if they're working on it, no email, no nothing. We talked about their lack of communication with removing the PS3, PSP, and Vita stores. So you can no longer get updates, DLC, or any kind of digital games in those months when they occur. Well, we've also talked about, and if we haven't, excuse me, the battery in the PS4, eventually it's going to die out. And it's one of those CMOS batteries that you find in a PC, the Dreamcast, and I think the Saturn, maybe not the Dreamcast, but the Saturn definitely has those batteries that you've got to change them out. CR 2032 batteries, I believe, or 2035. I think it's 2032 though. I digress. Those batteries, when they die, you can easily replace those. PS4, however, their trophies are tied to that. So if those fail, that's another problem there. So be mindful of that. Don't say other yellow hat guy didn't tell you, if you didn't already hear it from one of these other reputable news sources. That out of the way, what do I have great to say about Sony? Not a whole lot, but they did announce an update, and it dropped today. I do have the update, and I try to stay away from updates immediately from Apple and from Sony in particularly because they're usually buggy. I mean, so buggy you'd think there's an ant farm with all the bugs that are out. I think they focus so much on not being hacked or any kind of exploits that they just fail to do what needs to be done correctly. But the important takeaways from this update is you can customize the layout of your games. There's still no themes, but you can customize that. More importantly, storage space is an issue. And with this update, you can now do something you weren't able to do before. See, before, and this is really the first major update, I believe, for the system. They might have had one when it first dropped, but this is the first major update. You can store PS4 games on an external hard drive. What you could not do is store PS5 games on an external hard drive. They don't have the proprietary SSID hard drives ready yet. They'll be out in a few months, but right now the only way to store PS5 games is on the internal hard drive, which you only get roughly 660 odd gigabytes because they really only gave you an 800. Let me stop belly aching because they're all fair complaints, but we're past that, right? You don't get a true terabyte. You don't. All right, so up until this moment, you weren't able to do anything other than delete these games and reinstall them when you were ready to play them, if you even really wanted them. The lack of games at launch, Sony said, hey, we're going to give you some PS4 classics, some great PS4 games. But you don't have any space. So assuming you already had a full 2 terabyte drive, it's time to invest in another one. Not only for those PS4 games that you may not have had already. Thanks, Sony. And I'm appreciative. Some of those maybe I don't have, but I could get those physical for much cheaper and to save storage space than to get their version. And you can now, word vomit out of the way, you can now put PS5 games on external hard drive. That's, a regular USB 3.0. It's got to be a 3.0, and it's got to be a minimum of 250 gigabytes. So get out there and get one if you don't already have one. I think I've got one right here that was formatted. It's going to go in the back. Now, just like PS4, you can only have one hard drive at a time. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to be swapping drives. One for PS4 games, and this bad boy right here, I'll be putting PS5 games that I'm not really interested in at the moment on it. Why is this advantageous? It's easier just to move games back and forth than it is to keep re-downloading them. And Sony is finally aware of that. Because Microsoft right now, although they don't allow you to have an external of that proprietary drive, that drive is removable. So when you're able to buy those at a more affordable rate, you're good to go. PS5, it's soldered onto the board. You can't take it off. It's a done deal. So yeah, when you're choosing between the digital version and the physical, if you wanted the digital version, this would be the time now, because at least now you can put some of those PS5 games on an external hard drive. Now, you can't play them off of that drive. You can only move them back and forth. So again, you can move a PS5 game to an external drive that's not SSD, their version that is. You just got to move it back to the internal if you want to play it. So that's great news. They had some other controller updates. They redid the PlayStation app. You can now delete content. And you can hear the PlayStation music in the background. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. You can now manage your titles on the main dashboard. You don't have to go into the storage menu or the settings menu. You can, from the main dashboard, manage your game collection. So all that was a win-win for me. I went ahead and updated it. Even though I was hesitant, you never know. That update could have taken an hour. It could have taken 5 minutes. Fortunately, somewhere around 5-6 minutes, and no issues so far. So that out of the way, the main thing we wanted to talk about before you guys click this off is the title of the video. What is Nintendo and Microsoft up to? You got this guy, Phil Spencer, who's doing a great job over there at Microsoft. He's got a relationship with Nintendo that's very well. They brought you Banjo-Kazooie and the Smash, Ori and the Blind Wisp or whatever, Cuphead, you know what I'm saying? All of that on Nintendo Switch. Minecraft, Steve, also in Smash Bros, right? There's just so much going on there. Little things that you could say, oh, that's a business relationship. But here's why he's brilliant with this. He's realized Xbox is bigger than just the console. Xbox, the brand, they've got to get it wherever they can get it. They've got control of PC with it there. They've got Bethesda and all these other companies that historically have made PC games and stuff like that, making games for them exclusively now. If they can still get them on other platforms like Game Pass, they can then be on other consoles, other ways to play. They currently don't have a handheld system, and they're out of the phone game for the most part. But if you had something like Game Pass and had a phone capable of playing this stuff, well, what's a step up from a phone? A Nintendo Switch? Microsoft is struggling to get into the markets where? In Japan, where the Nintendo Switch is king? Makes sense to have a relationship with those guys. See, they're not going to sell you Mario, but what if you put your games over there beside Mario and gave people other options of things to play? How awesome would that be? Now, hopefully it's just an app that you could download and you can get into the indie titles from that app versus, versus having these retainers just dry out your mouth. Versus having, all those indie games mixed in with the eShop, which is, if we're being honest, it's a disaster. They need to fix that whole eShop. They need to categorize games. There's so much that they need to do, but we kind of just endure it because word of mouth tells you what you want. You pretty much already know what you want when it drops, right? They put the blockbuster titles at the front. They put the stuff that's on sale next, and then it's just, you've got to search for it, right? You kind of know what you want on a Nintendo Switch, and unfortunately that means there's a bunch of games that you may never look at if it's not brought to your attention. Hopefully what they do is Game Pass is its own app, like I said, and there's a plethora of titles that you can pick through from there. So, you know, you're only paying $20 a year for Switch for the whole year. $10 a month for Game Pass. That's not bad compared to you're paying $60 a year for Xbox Live and then $10 a month for Game Pass. So, will they bring Game Pass to PlayStation? I don't think so. It's not guaranteed that they're bringing Game Pass to Switch, but that's what it's looking like. There's other options now. Here's why people feel this way. Microsoft had some kind of live stream, well, Phil Spencer did, and in the background on his bookshelf, he had certain stuff hinting at what he's got going on. A game with Hideo Kojima possibly on the way, a Kojima-looking thing up there, right? And you had a Nintendo Switch, amongst other things. He also, in another video, way before the Xbox Series S was released, had one on his bookshelf. So people are connecting dots and saying, oh, he had a Switch there for a reason. Nobody's upset that he's got a Switch there if you're Microsoft. He might just enjoy playing Switch from time to time. He might have had it there because Banjo-Kazooie is coming to Switch. No, maybe if you had Game Pass, you can play Banjo-Kazooie on your Switch. Maybe they make Banjo-Kazooie 3 and it goes on the Switch. Maybe Master Chief Collection comes on the Switch. Maybe there's a version of Halo that they drop with like Mario skins or something like that, like Fortnite does. There's so many possibilities here, and they all make business sense. Why? Because this is Microsoft's way to get into the Japanese market. This is Microsoft's way of saying we don't have a handheld. This is our way of saying if we can't beat them, let's join them. Maybe somebody will be more inclined to have an Xbox next to their Switch instead of a PS5 if there's already a working relationship. If we can cross-play, you know, that's a great move, Phil Spencer. It's probably the best thing Microsoft has done because these are titles that may or may not come to the Nintendo Switch that now Switch owners, if true, have. Now there's this guy, Special Ed, who, you know, people have been pointing to him saying, hey, the cat's out the bag, look for this fall for Microsoft and Sony, or Microsoft and Nintendo doing something. Well, what could also drop this fall? A new Nintendo Switch? See, I told you we were going to talk about it still. It's a great thing if the speculation happens. You know, even if they don't put like Master Chief Collection, like a version of it on the Switch, if it's on Game Pass and you can still play Halo on the go. If Etika were here now, he'd have way more excitement than I do, way more animated look on his face. But that in itself is awesome. So let me know your thoughts. Did I go in too hard on Sony? Were my claims valid? Are you excited about what's going on with the update? What about this Nintendo and Xbox news? Is it exciting to you? They had an Indie World, which I was like, there's a 3 or 4 titles in there that I'm excited for outside of Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles, yep, they got a game coming there. Not really going to talk Indie World because, again, it would be a 2-minute video, so just throwing that in on here. But let me know what you thought of any of that stuff that I just mentioned. I would love to hear from you. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, I love you guys. See you in the next video. I'm going to end it here. The Yellow Hat Guy is out. See you in the next one. Captain Sensation.